What if the most fascinating figures from across time could meet for the first time in the hereafter, free to speak as they never could in life? Welcome to History's Afterlife. Tonight, in the quiet chambers of eternity, two masters of deception encounter each other. Men who lived by secrets and died carrying them, yet who served causes as opposite as dawn and dusk. First, Sir Francis Walsingham, Elizabeth I's Spymaster and architect of England's first intelligence service. Born around 1532 into Protestant fervour, this devout Puritan created a web of agents across Europe, convinced that Catholic conspiracies threatened England's very existence. Known as Her Majesty's Moor for his dark methods as much as his complexion, Walsingham uncovered genuine plots against Elizabeth's life, while perhaps inventing others. He died in 1590, bankrupt from funding his spy network with his own fortune, believing utterly that God and England were synonymous causes. Second, Harold Adrian Russell Philby, Kim to his friends, the most notorious double agent in British history. Born in 1912 to privilege and empire, he was recruited by Soviet intelligence while at Cambridge University, and spent 30 years betraying Britain from within its most secret institutions. Charming, brilliant, and utterly ruthless, Philby sent dozens of Western agents to their deaths while maintaining the perfect facade of an English gentleman spy. He defected to Moscow in 1963, living his final decades as a decorated hero of the Soviet Union, never publicly expressing regret for his betrayals. One man built British intelligence, the other nearly destroyed it. One served God and Queen, the other served Marx and Moscow. Tonight, the Tudor loyalist meets the Cambridge traitor.
Mr. Philby, your reputation precedes you, though I confess I find it troubling.
Sir Francis, how delightfully medieval. And which aspect of my reputation troubles you most? The effectiveness or the ideology?
The betrayal. I spent my life building what you spent yours destroying.
Walsingham established the first organised intelligence service in English history, with agents in every major European court. Philby, as head of MI6's Soviet section, had access to virtually every British operation against Moscow, and fed them all to his handlers.
Didn't you simply build a system so rigid, so convinced of its own righteousness, that it became vulnerable to anyone willing to question its assumptions?
Philby once wrote, "To betray, you must first belong." Yet Walsingham, the ultimate insider, might have argued that true belonging requires absolute loyalty, the very quality Philby lacked.
Justice? You speak of justice while betraying your oath, your colleagues, your country.
Which country, Sir Francis? The one that denied education to the poor, that exploited its colonies, that protected the privileges of the few, or the imaginary England of your Protestant fantasies?
England as God intended her, a beacon of true faith in a world corrupted by popery and heresy. You, sir, speak like a blasphemer.
Ah yes, the true faith. How convenient that God's will aligned so perfectly with Tudor political interests. I will concede that my superiors in Moscow sometimes found that Marxist-Leninism justified whatever actions served Soviet power.
Walsingham spent his young adulthood in Protestant strongholds across Europe during Mary Tudor's Catholic Restoration. witnessing firsthand the persecution of English Protestants. This experience shaped his lifelong conviction that Catholic Europe posed an existential threat to Protestant England.
You dare compare my service to God with your service to atheist communism?
I compare two forms of ideological certainty, both utterly convinced of their righteousness, both willing to sacrifice individual lives for abstract principles.
My principles preserved England's independence. Yours would have delivered her to foreign tyranny.
Foreign tyranny? I seem to recall your England practicing quite a bit of domestic tyranny. How many Catholics did you torture? How many innocent priests did you hang?
They were traitors, plotting against their lawful queen.
Some of them, perhaps. But all of them? Every Catholic who refused to abandon his faith became a traitor in your system, rather like how every Western intelligence officer became an enemy in mine.
Walsingham's agents operated from his house in Seething Lane, where suspected Catholics were interrogated using the rack and other torture devices. The priest, Edmund Campion, captured in 1581, was tortured so much he couldn't even raise his hand to take the oath at his trial. Another priest had to raise it for him.
You seek to equate legitimate state security with treasonous betrayal.
I seek to point out that we both served causes larger than ourselves, both convinced that our enemies deserved whatever fate befell them. The difference is that I chose my cause as an adult, while you inherited yours from your nurse's bedtime prayers.
My faith was tested by fire, by exile during Mary Tudor's reign, by the constant threat of Catholic invasion, by the knowledge that England's survival hung by a thread.
And my convictions were tested by the rise of fascism, by the sight of British hypocrisy in action, by the recognition that capitalism would always sacrifice human dignity for profit.
Philby was recruited by Soviet intelligence in 1934, while at Cambridge University, partly due to his horror at the rise of fascism and his father's work in Saudi Arabia. His handler was Arnold Deutsch, who cultivated him as part of the famous Cambridge 5 spy ring.
Yet you lived comfortably within that capitalist system while betraying it. I, at least, risked my fortune and my life for my beliefs.
True, though I wonder if that makes you more admirable or simply more naive.
Naive? To believe in something greater than oneself?
To believe that your particular version of greatness was the only valid one. At least I recognize that other systems might have merit.
What seems strange to us now is that Walsingham spent his own money funding his intelligence network. When he died, he was massively in debt. Philby, by contrast, received regular payments from Moscow throughout his career.
Systems that murdered millions of their own people. Your idealism was purchased with remarkable blindness.
And yours wasn't? How many died in your religious wars, your colonial conquests, your defense of Christian civilization?
I knew the cost of my choices. I carried the weight of every life I took or destroyed. Do you?
Every night. The difference is that I believed the cause justified the cost.
As did I. Yet you mock my faith while defending your own with identical arguments.
Perhaps because your faith was backward-looking, mine forward. You fought to preserve a medieval order. I fought to create a modern one.
Medieval? My intelligence service was the most sophisticated in Europe. I pioneered techniques your century still used.
True. Your cipher work was remarkable for the time, though I suspect you would have appreciated some of our more advanced methods.
Walsingham employed Thomas Philippe, a master codebreaker who could forge handwriting so perfectly that he could add postscripts to intercepted letters before forwarding them. Philby later used similar techniques, exploiting his position to alter intelligence reports before they reached senior officials.
I used what was necessary: torture, bribery, blackmail, all in service of discovering truth.
Or creating it. I've read the accounts of your interrogations. Rather difficult to distinguish between extracting confessions and manufacturing them.
Every confession was verified, every plot confirmed by multiple sources.
Sources you controlled, evidence you collected, plots you may have encouraged. Rather like how I fed British intelligence exactly the information that served Soviet interests.
You dare suggest I fabricated evidence against traitors?
I suggest we both understood that intelligence work requires creative interpretation of facts. The difference is that I was honest about it.
In the Babington plot of 1586, named after Anthony Babington, who wanted to assassinate Queen Elizabeth and replace her with Mary, Queen of Scots, Walsingham's agent Gilbert Gifford may have encouraged Anthony Babington to develop his conspiracy against Queen Elizabeth, providing him with a secret communication channel that Walsingham's men monitored. Some historians argue the plot would never have materialised without this covert encouragement.
Creative interpretation? I protected England from real threats. Spanish gold flowing to Irish rebels. Jesuit priests spreading sedition. Assassination plots against the Queen.
Real threats mixed with imaginary ones, I suspect. Rather like how the Soviet Union faced real capitalist encirclement alongside paranoid fantasies of Western plots.
You seek to diminish the genuine dangers I confronted.
I seek to point out that intelligence officers have a professional interest in discovering threats, whether they exist or not. Job security, you might say.
You think I manufactured crises to justify my position?
I think you did what all intelligence officers do. You found what you needed to find to support the policies your masters wanted to pursue.
That's a disturbing thought.
Welcome to the moral complexity of our profession, Sir Francis. We tell ourselves we serve truth, but we actually serve power. The only question is which power deserves our service.
Both men operated extensive double-agent networks. Walsingham turned Catholic priests into informants through blackmail and threats to their families. Philby recruited British officials by exploiting their financial troubles or personal vulnerabilities, techniques that differed little across the centuries.
And you chose Moscow.
I chose the future over the past. Progress over tradition. Equality over hierarchy. What did you choose?
I chose certainty. The certainty of faith, of loyalty, of knowing absolutely that my cause was righteous.
Even when that certainty required you to ignore inconvenient evidence?
Especially then.
Both men lived with the weight of betrayal. Walsingham betraying Catholic friends to Protestant duty, Philby betraying British colleagues to Soviet idealism. Yet which betrayal was more honest?
Do you know what I envied about you, reading your history? The simplicity of your moral universe. God and the devil, Protestant and Catholic, loyal and treasonous. Such clear distinctions.
You think my world was simple. I watched friends burn as heretics, saw children starve because of wars fought over theological abstractions, lived in constant fear that England would tear herself apart over religious differences.
During Walsingham's lifetime, England executed hundreds of Catholics for religious reasons. His own brother-in-law, Robert Beale, sometimes questioned whether their methods had become indistinguishable from those of the Spanish Inquisition they claimed to oppose.
But you never doubted which side was right.
No, I never doubted that. Did you?
Every day. The purges, the famines, the brutal suppression of dissent. I knew the Soviet Union was flawed, but I believed it was still humanity's best hope for progress.
Even as it murdered its own people by the millions.
Even then, because the alternative, capitalist imperialism, seemed worse. At least Soviet brutality served an ideal of equality.
Equality achieved through murder and oppression. That seems a curious definition of justice.
Better to suffer for noble lies than ignoble truce.
I begin to see why you were so effective at what you did.
How so?
You understood that conviction can justify any action, that personal moral qualms must yield to the greater good. It's a dangerous understanding.
The difference is that I never pretended my cause was divinely ordained. I knew I was serving flawed men, pursuing an imperfect ideal. Did you?
I am beginning to.
In his final years in Moscow, Philby reportedly grew increasingly disillusioned with Soviet reality, though he never publicly recanted. He was awarded the Order of Lenin and honorary colonel status, but colleagues noted his growing cynicism and heavy drinking.
Tell me something, Sir Francis. In your darkest moments, did you ever wonder if you were protecting England or simply protecting your own need to feel necessary?
I fear that the two might have become indistinguishable. And you? Did you serve the Soviet cause or your own need to rebel against everything your class and country represented?
The same answer, I suspect.
Then perhaps we were both guilty of the same sin, confusing our personal needs with cosmic purpose.
A very human failing, though one with rather serious consequences in our professions.
Indeed. The intelligence officer's occupational hazard, mistaking our own needs for national interests.
Well, Sir Francis, this has been illuminating. I confess I expected to find you rather more fanatical than this.
And I expected to find you rather more monstrous. Perhaps the most dangerous enemies are those who seem most reasonable.
The burden of intelligence work. We become the masks we wear until we forget there was ever a face beneath.
Or perhaps we discover that the face beneath was always capable of wearing any mask that served our deeper needs.
To the service of causes larger than ourselves, however flawed those causes proved to be.
And to the recognition that serving noble lies may be no better than serving ignoble truce.
Though infinitely more satisfying to our vanity.
Indeed, pride goeth before the fall, as Scripture says.
How remarkably appropriate.
In the end, perhaps the most chilling aspect of Walsingham and Philby's conversation is not their differences, but their shared recognition that intelligence work inevitably corrupts those who practice it. Both men began with genuine conviction, Walsingham defending his faith and nation, Philby pursuing his vision of justice. Yet both discovered that the methods required to serve those convictions gradually transformed them into something else entirely. The Protestant Spymaster and the communist Traitor revealed that the intelligence officer's greatest adversary is not the foreign enemy, but the slow erosion of the moral certainty that first motivated their service. In seeking to protect what they loved through deception and betrayal, both men may have lost the very capacity to distinguish between protection and destruction, between service and self-interest. Their meeting reminds us that the most dangerous moment in any intelligence career comes not when agents discover enemy secrets, but when they stop questioning their own.